Why Ninja is a B is because Mudras are complex and difficult, and they are punished in ways most other jobs are not. Dragoon is a B plus because there's RNG. The Samurai being B just because meditate is nearly all the Samurai has to make up for its range limitations. I think this is probably the stupidest sentence in the entire article. The best magic DPS classes. In Final Fantasy XIV, the best DPS class is tough to choose, especially with the somewhat esoteric magic DPS category. The differences in effectiveness are pretty slim, even on paper. Ooh. Woo! I don't know about that one, dude. The differences in effectiveness are pretty slim, even on paper. As ever then, playstyle and preferences make a huge difference. Would you rather literally tame Bahamut as a... Oh my god. Drop some of the biggest numbers in the game with Black Mage or have the utility afforded to Red Mage? Let's take a look and help decide the best magic DPS job. No matter which class you pick though, it's worth noting the casters are different from ranged and melee DPS folks. Each of them needs time to sit still and charge their abilities before firing. As such, you should get familiar with the concept of slide casting. That's when you start moving your character split seconds even before the spell you're channeling actually completes. It's basically a trick of in-game latency that lets you dodge incoming attacks without canceling your own offense. It's really cool that they mentioned that actually, though it's not for everyone. What? No! If you play caster, you slide cast. That would be like if the melee, if they were like, melee needs to be on a certain rear or flank to hit and deal extra damage, though it's not for everyone. You can still do well without utilizing this concept, but it's great to have in your arsenal. If that doesn't sound like what you want, here are your alternatives. Ooh. Oh, Summoner! A tier! Okay. Yeah, we had a lot to say about Summoner, all right. Summoner once had the reputation for being more than a little complex, and now it's still pretty complicated actually, but things have gotten better. The appropriately named caster can create multiple magical allies, all of which function pretty similarly, but have their own particular uses. While you ready yourself to summon Demi Bahamut, there's also damage over time to deal with poisonous spells. This means summoners have a lot to juggle, keeping their toxins in place, switching between creatures, casting their normal spells, and charging up ultra powerful combos at the end. At the same time, any summoner benefits from passive damage applied by their minions and the poisonous spells. That means you're nearly always contributing in some way, even if you mess up a spell rotation or need to run for your life. Oh, so they're talking about your pet will still deal damage even if you fuck up. Okay. Summoners are also one of just 2 non-healer classes with the innate ability to resurrect allies. Okay, this is really good that they mentioned this. Alongside the Red Mage. This means that you can save your party's bacon if you suddenly lose your healer. Save your party's bacon? What does that mean, dude? You can reverse a full party wipe in dungeons. You can save another party in Alliance raid. You can resurrect fallen strangers in Eureka and save the Queen zones. It's altogether nice to have. Assuming all goes well, you also do very high damage to boot. It's worth noting, however, that nearly all of this is going away, or at least changing dramatically, soon. Endwalker gives the summoner an all-over reboot, akin to an entirely new job, the developers say. You keep the resurrection and of course the minions. However, damage over time spells will be removed entirely. No more Bio or Miasma. In exchange, you'll receive some really flashy new summons, Garuda, Titan, and Ifrit. This shouldn't be a part of the ranking. This isn't rank stuff. So it's an A because it's getting reworked? This should have been based on its current form. And Monk got a C? Anyway, in exchange, you'll receive some really flashy new summons, Garuda, Titan, and Ifrit. It's even proper versions of each this time. No more edgy copycats. Also, no more Titan edgy, which plenty of Summoner players agree really didn't do much throughout Shadowbringers. That's fucked up, man. Yo, dicks out for some Titan edgy. The rub here is we don't know exactly how well this will hold up in practice. Our preview time with the game made it feel good, but specific like spell potencies are still subject to change. Keep that in mind going going into Endwalker, the summoner you know and love might not stack up later, or it might be even better. Either way, you will also gain access to the Scholar job by leveling up your summoner, as an Arcanist is the only hybrid class in 14. That's an extra argument to level it up if you don't already have a healer already. Okay, so this summoner review scuffed. This isn't even like a proper ranking. All this guy talks about for like half of it, like at least half of it, is just the fucking rework. It would be different if we knew how it was gonna perform in Endwalker, right? But we don't. Why is this an A then? Is this an A purely because of the res and all of the melee DPS are B because they don't have a res? Like, that's part of being a melee DPS. You just don't have a res. This person's review is biased as fuck. This means the summoners have a lot to juggle. Like, they went out of their way to bold a lot to juggle. Okay, so Monk also has a lot to juggle, or a lot to like micromanage, right? But you gave Monk a C. Monk is also getting a rework, probably for the better. So why does Summoner get an A, but Monk gets a C? This person needed to have rules, okay? And that's why it's very important that whenever we do tier lists, it's very important to have rules, okay? Rule 1. Let's say rule 1 is utility. Rule 2, complexity. Because in Summoner, he just crossed this one out like, complexity don't even matter. But in Monk, he focused on it. He circled it and he put 2 exclamation marks next to it. And in Ninja, he fucking pointed to it. He circled it 3 times. He put a star next to it and he put Mudras with a question mark. Explanation. Okay, so his Summoner review is like bad. All right. Black Mage, A tier. Oh, dude, I think Black Mage is like fucking D tier, man. Black Mage is as Black Mage does. And what it does is, okay, so this is Black Mage is A tier because it has a big number. That's it. That's literally it. This is arguably the signature magical DPS class with the most of the spells you might recognize from classic Final Fantasy games. You then cast said spells a bunch and hotspot between icy and fiery moves to keep up your damage and manage mana. There's not much more to it than that. Ooh. He didn't mention like positioning yourself properly. That's very, very, okay. All right, anyway, there never has been with Black Mage. Some buffs and big spells on long cooldowns round out your ability to deal damage quickly without running out of juice. Most of the time though, you stand still and shoot fireballs and or ice crystals. What you get in exchange for simplicity is lots, what? Wait, okay, so this person is saying the job is boring, but it does big damage. The job is easy, but it does big damage. Wouldn't both of those things be a bonus? Aren't those both good? How does he know about DPS Tierlist? Black Mage has nearly always tops the damage charts on paper. Even if other DPS classes like Ninja provide more party-wide benefits, you just need to be good at spellcasting, which is in itself an art in Final Fantasy XIV that requires some practice. The reason being that spells take time to fire. If you move during that time, any channeled spell will cancel out, meaning you not only miss out on damage, but waste even more time just standing around. Or you stand in the AoE and probably die. Lots of Black Mage players wind up doing that. Why does this person mention this? Okay, this person mentions like uptime on your cast, meaning proper positioning, right? But then right here, you just need to be good at spellcasting. What the fuck? You just need to be good at spellcasting? You can literally replace this part of the sentence with just saying you literally just need to hit your GCDs. But slide casting is optional. Okay. That means Black Mage players ought to know encounters about as well as a tank. I guess healers don't need to know about encounters. It's kind of weird. He would specifically say tank, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, whatever. If they want to be 100% effective, that is. So to be 100% effective as a Black Mage, you need to know the fight as well as a tank. I don't really agree with that, but okay. Area of effect, patterns, boss attack timings. AoE patterns have like virtually nothing to do with a tank. I mean, I guess maybe positioning, but then that goes back to what I said before about being able to position yourself properly. Boss attack timings, you don't really need to know. And I mean, you know what? I'm looking too deep into it. Learning it will let you squeeze the absolute most out of your abilities, where other classes can provide buffs and the like instead. That's not going to feel right for every DPS player, but if it does for you, this one's a real powerhouse. Okay, so this person doesn't care that Black Mage can't res. The only thing this person cares about is that it's easy and it provides a lot of DPS and it has big numbers. So that's why Black Mage is an A. Big damage, hyper poggers! Red Mage, B+? A B+? Here we have a simpler, more mobile magic class. Red Mage unlocks at level 50, just like Samurai, and mostly focuses on dealing damage like a Black Mage or Summoner. However, you also get a semi-solid heal in the form of your Cure, which is mostly good for solo content. Ooh. You also get Raise, which, like Resurrection or Summoner, is even better for emergencies. Otherwise, you mostly spend your time building up black mana and white mana, 2 job resources that let you execute powerful melee attacks. Then you leap back out of battle and repeat. It's a class that looks and sounds daunting in theory, but it's probably the simplest caster to play overall. That's because you mostly sling the same couple of spells over and over again. Unless, of course, one of your super spells triggers, each of which has a 50% chance of priming. Basically, if you ever can use a spell or melee combo, you always know you should, which removes most of the guesswork from other jobs. Add this to party-wide damage buff, albeit one that only increases physical damage for allies. It also starts as a 10% buff, but slowly weakens over the course of its duration. That doesn't make it the most effective utility skill among DPS classes. It is, however, better than nothing. You could probably guess where this is going. Red Mage is the yeah, before we read this, you could probably guess where this is going. I can't guess where this is going. I have no idea where this is going, dude. This is like someone fucking pulled up in a black van, put a bag over my head, threw me in the van, and they're driving like, I don't know, in like rough terrain. I don't know if I'm in like, you know, the mountains in a fucking desert, you know, with like hills. I don't know if I'm in the fucking woods, dude. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. Red Mage is the very definition of a jack of all trades, master to none. Okay, you can heal, resurrect, fire at range, get in close, get back out again, and add damage for your allies sometimes. None of which leads to the biggest impact in the game. Ooh! I don't know about that, dude. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you guys ever been in a party where the only people alive was the Red Mage and 2 tanks, and the Red Mage raised the healer, and you guys had this massive badass recovery? Because I know I've been in many of those parties. So I don't know about that, but on the flip side, Red Mage is fun to play and easy to pick up for newcomers. If you started as a tank or healer and want to level up your first magical DPS, this one even gets that level 50 leg up. So why is he saying that this is B? This person needs to explain their rankings better. Now, like, I don't have to agree, but you should at least be able to read this and, like, I guess, I don't know. Like, there should be reasons, I think. Or maybe this person should have started off with categories like I listed earlier. I don't know. I think Red Mage is very strong. Real quick, let's look at ranged DPS classes. Ranged DPS rankings aren't going to change much with the release of Endwalker. This is like already scuffed because some of the jobs, he put the Endwalker into the category, and other jobs, he didn't put the Endwalker into the category. Anyway, however, the 3 classes have some important differences to understand both now and going forward. If you don't care at all about buffing your allies, for instance, there's really only one obvious choice. And if you're here to play a utility-centric support, you ought to know the differences in effectiveness. Like all jobs in 14, it's worth noting that everything is pretty damn viable. Okay, this is good, mentions it again. The game is already smoothed over quite a few rough edges. Okay, good. So personal preference, playstyle, okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Bard, B tier. With Summoner losing its damage over time skills in Endwalker, Bard is now the ranged poisoner to beat. Though the job lives up to its name with songs that buff nearby allies as well, that aspect is extended with Endwalker, and with the various ballads lasting 50% longer than Shadowbringers. After you play any of these songs, you can trigger Radiant Finale. What? Which grants up to another 5% damage to your party for 15 seconds. The Bard also provides bonus healing, defense, critical hit rate. They can even prevent or remove certain status effects from allies, a slightly niche skill that will presumably be more important in Endwalker when it adds to the power of Radiant Finale. Okay, so they're talking about the Payon or whatever. See, this whole review is scuffed because some of the jobs he is taking the Endwalker information and putting it into the reason why he gives the tier, and other times he's not. Like, this is already completely fucked. While all these songs are playing, you're dealing those dots. The poison in turn powers up your archery with a random chance to increase your attack and skill speed. That's doubly useful on physical range DPS classes. You're basically attacking all the time after all. It's a more or less passive perk of the role. Okay. Bard is, in essence, the poster child for utility. That's only more true than ever in Endwalker, but has never been a bad thing to have. Not even if your personal DPS isn't quite as high or reliable as some with the elements of randomness you need to contend with. So B, Machinist is B tier. Machinist is basically the inverse of Bard, a physical damage dealer that doesn't give much to allies. It's one of the so-called selfish DPS classes, along with the Samurai and Black Mage. And it's true that the gun wielders don't bring much utility. Instead, they deal heavily constant damage. They're reassemble plus drill combo. Said damage isn't higher than the highest end of Black Mage players. Why are you comparing a range to a caster? Anyway, but still quite solid since it doesn't require the player to stand still. As a machinist, you can attack and move as much as you want, like a melee DPS at a distance without positional requirements. I don't like it when certain people are like, well, a machinist doesn't deal as much damage as a black. Well, yeah, no shit. It's not supposed to. This fire and forget attitude extends into what has become their signature skill. The automaton queen, the big brass lady, operates independently and just repeatedly dishes out damage with no regard for what else is going on in the fight. Unleashing the metal beast relies on building up a battery gauge, with specifically overbuilding it for a maximum queen time. While you're working on this, you can continually overheat your gun to deal extra damage and reduce refresh timers on offensive skills. Like other self-centered jobs, this one isn't too complicated. There's not much going on under the hood, building up your combos and firing, though it feels great to constantly be in the fight. Okay, one more. All right, B. So they're all B? This isn't even a tier list! Dancer lands somewhere between Machinist and the Bard. It's a ranged class, plenty of utility. You could even argue that the buffs here are more valuable than on Archer. Either way, it almost never feels bad to have a Dancer or two on your... What? A Dancer or two? Two? They can reduce damage on tanks, increase DPS, and help healers. On the other hand, Dancer also has the reputation for being pretty mindless, even more so than the Red Mage. Over the magic users, you mostly just use whatever skill your hotbar tells you, denoted by flashing icons when random chance dictates a combo skill is ready. Then execute your dances when a buff needs refreshing, and you're good to go. The heavy reliance on RNG also, you can also get absolutely screwed on personal damage, or you can become a total death machine. The variance isn't usually that wild in practice, but it can be frustrating if it's not outright boring. Your teammates will likely still thank you. And like the other physical range DPS classes that don't change much with Endwalker, Dancer is staying pretty much the same with a few quality of life improvements and more defensive options, while the Bard evens the playing field on damage buffs. It sounds like the margin for error on healing is getting slimmer this expansion. What? So mitigation might be more useful than ever before. What? I think I just read the most brain damaging shit in my fucking life.